Hey, shalom, everyone. Rabbi Derek here, Beth Messiah Synagogue. Happy to be back with you after a little while. We're continuing to count the Omer, spanning the gap between the Passover and Shavuot. Today is day 39 of counting the Omer. Omer day 39, which is 5 weeks and 4 days. So we're coming up on the end. We're only 10 days away from the end of counting the Omer. Of course, 49 days, and the 50th day then is Shavuot, Pentecost, the Feast of Weeks. I want to bring your attention to Matthew 18, starting at verse 12. Yeshua speaking, he says, "What do you think? If any man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, will he not leave the 99 on the mountains and go and search for the one that is lost? And if it turns out that he finds it, truly I say to you, he rejoices over it more than over the 99 that have not gone astray. So it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven for one of these little ones to perish." If we're thinking about Yeshua in that regard, the one who will go after the one, leave the 99, go after the one. Of course, we have plenty of songs and reflections that use this parable. But we have to understand that Yeshua's love for us is fierce and it's radical. Right? It wasn't the easy choice in the parable for the shepherd to go after that one. To leave the 99 is a huge risk. Maybe the parable falls apart. It's not like Yeshua is taking a risk in going after, those whom he loves. But the point is that it illustrates how fierce and how radical his love for us is. It's not passive. It's not religious in this like weird, Zen way. That's not how his love is described for us in the scripture. It's active. His love is active. His love for mankind, including each of us individually, is intense and it's close. It's not afar off. And there's multiple times in this same chapter, Matthew 18, and obviously many places elsewhere, but in this chapter alone, that this is realized from Yeshua's own words. Earlier in the chapter, in the first 6 verses, he describes having a childlike faith. And he gives a gruesome picture, a warning about anyone who would cause a person with childlike faith to sin. And that could be a literal child or anyone with a pure faith. He said it would be better for that offender to be drowned in the sea with a millstone around their neck and essentially disappear, not just die, but disappear, right? As if they never were. That's really intense, protective love. It's the love of a father, right? Anyone who's a parent thinking about someone who might harm your kids, it's a no-brainer to think that you would go to the ends of the earth to make sure that they remain safe and that they remain intact, including, not just physically, but spiritually. And that's exactly what Yeshua is saying here. This is his intense, protective love for those that have faith. And that's not it. In the next chunk of verses there, verses 7-9 in Matthew 18, he explains that if your own choices are causing you to stumble into sin, that you should go to the furthest extreme to cut that out. He says, gouging out your eye if it causes you to sin, or cutting off your hand. The point is, his love for us is so deep that he wouldn't ever want us to settle for destructive behavior or anything that's going to cause us to sin. He's saying, get rid of it, because sin is so destructive that it's harming his children, and he doesn't ever want that to be. The world is full of tragedy, and we've experienced, even in our country, especially maybe even in our country lately, extreme tragedy. Of course, I'm sure you've heard of this school shooting in Texas, where small children were massacred. And it grieves our hearts. Anyone, with a pulse can't help but be moved and sickened by the darkness that's displayed there. Believe me, our Father grieves with us and for us in a way. It sickens him in a way that we only have a shadow of. We reflect his love. We reflect his not just his love, but his aversion to sin. The things that disgust him disgust us, but maybe only in a fraction of a way. So if his love is exponentially more intense than ours, his disgust and hatred for sin is exponentially greater as well. He hurts deeply because the world is upside down, and the innocent, like these children, these poor children, are affected by the violence of this world. And it's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be like this. This is not the world that God intended. This is not the behavior that he ever wanted for his children. He intended to impart into us, his creation, the image of love. And love as intense as he describes here in Matthew 18. So my hope and prayer is that those of us in the body of Messiah would be able to break free from the bonds of sin, which are already broken open for us. We're no longer slaves to it, as the scripture says, but we would live like it, that we would reflect his intense love, and that by doing so, we would bring so many into the kingdom, causing such an affront to the kingdom of darkness, that things like this wouldn't happen again, that we would see a revival of love in the world, not just nebulous love, but the love of Yeshua, our Messiah, God in the flesh, who has intended for us to reflect his love all along. Get with him about that. If you're sad, if you're upset, if you have questions about these things, he wants to interact with you about it. And certainly if you have questions that you feel like you need to ask us, you can call the synagogue, and one of us would love to be able to talk with you and pray with you about these things. Our Father has an intense, radical love for us, for you. He wants to show it to you. He wants to turn you, to reveal it, not just reveal it to you, but turn you into it, the embodiment of his love. That's his goal for his body, for his children, for us. So be encouraged by that today, because his love and his light is greater than all darkness. And one day this will all be stamped out and everything will be made new. We look forward to that in expectancy. He's never not come through on his promises. He's not going to start. He will come through because his word is good forever. All right. Shalom, everybody. We'll see you.